CNBC TV18 special. I'm Shereen Bhan. We're coming to you from San Francisco, which is playing host to Salesforce's annual event, Dreamforce. And joining me now to talk about the road ahead for Salesforce in India is the Chairperson and CEO of Salesforce India, Arundhati Bhattacharya. Ma'am, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here on CNBC TV18. You know, you reminded me that it's now 4.5 years for you at the helm of Salesforce in India, and that's longer than your stint as the SBI chairperson.
Sure.
Let me start there. I mean, the transition for you personally, but also the growth that's happened for Salesforce in India under you. Take us through both those.
So, if you ask me for my personal growth, I think it's been a very energizing journey. I've learned a whale of a lot. I've learned, a different domain, how you negotiate that. I've tried also to find how best I can contribute to this organization, because what I bring to this organization is the outside-in view, the view of the customer and where the customer pain points are so that they can be resolved by our people and engineers over here. Other than that, of course, I've also learned to work a lot with a younger generation.
Yeah.
In fact, multiple generations. Because, we have people who are in their early 20s, and I'm, of course, in my late 60s. So you can imagine, the kind of people that I'm working with. And their requirements, their priorities, what really satisfies them, what energizes them is entirely different from the way we used to work. So I think I've learned a lot about people, I've learned a lot about technology, I've learned a lot about customer service and delivery, which I don't think, I had done in SBI. Other than that, of course, I'm very happy about the fact that India is growing well. So there are two parts to the India operation. One, of course, is the global hubs, which does a lot of our innovation work, our product and engineering work, also our support work. So there are a number of global support hubs out in India. And they have been growing very, very well. We were about 2,500 people then, we are about 13,000 now. So that's been a massive growth in 4 years' time. And on the other hand, my sales, which was earlier also about, we had only about 300 people, we have about 800 people today in our go-to-market, initiatives. There too, we have been doing very well. For the last 2 years, India has been the fastest growing country in the Salesforce domain. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to make it 3 years in a row. But that's to be seen, because there's enormous competition amongst countries to ensure that we are getting the right things out. But I think with Agentforce, that we showcased in our Dreamforce today in the keynote, it's going to be a game changer, absolute game changer, and it's something which I believe will improve the level of services that we are able to provide to our nation, because our nation is a very populous nation, and it's very difficult to really cater to people's requirements because of the sheer size of the population. Now, we always knew that technology was required to solve this, and now we have that technology. So I think, I am actually quite happy about the change that I made. When I did make the change, there were a lot of naysayers. I personally was, not at all sure I was doing the right thing. But now I think, I did absolutely the right thing.
You made the right decision at the right time, and it's worked out well for you. There's a lot that you packed in there, Ms. Bhattacharya, so let me pick up on each one of those. And let's start with the big announcement that's come in from Mark Benioff here at Dreamforce, which is to talk about Agentforce in collaboration with NVIDIA. You said you believe that this is going to be a game changer. Why do you say that? Why do you think that this is going to reimagine sales tech as we know it?
So, the thing about Agentforce is that it can be autonomous. So you don't really need, to have a human in the chain all the time. It will be capable of really and truly answering questions that you are putting to it on its own. And what that would do, it would allow the humans to basically do jobs that need human interaction. There are a lot of jobs that actually need human interaction. It cannot be done only by machines. But there are a lot of, lower level grunt jobs, so to speak, where the maximum amount of people's time go. That can all be saved. And it's not only that, today the entire concept of agent force is, this is something that you can go to market with very, very quickly.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not going to take ages and ages in order to build these, to deploy them. It's something that can be done very fast if you're already on the Salesforce platform, or even if you're not, with the right kind of foundations. And the foundation always has to be data, and our ability to integrate that data. If you get those foundations right, the rest of it is very simple to do.
There was a provocative statement that Mark made saying that, this is way beyond any co-pilot, and that is why he believes that he's betting the entire company behind Agent Force. Now, the response by Microsoft, etc., is that, look, in terms of adoption, in terms of being able to scale it up and so on and so forth, there's refinement happening on the co-pilot end. But you said that this is going to be able to take off very quickly. Explain to us why you feel so confident about that.
I just saw it today. I saw the whole thing being built in front of me for a client for whom we had very little data. Okay, but it got built right in front just by taking information from the client's webpage. And it's really and truly, I think it's really, truly path-breaking. What has been shown and what can be done is absolutely path-breaking.
Okay, let's talk about India. You said you're hoping that in year 3 as well, it will continue to be the fastest growing market for Salesforce globally. In terms of revenue, what is the expectation? You're almost at 6,000 crores
so
currently.
That is the revenue for the Indian entity,
right.
But I cannot break it up separately, region-wise, and we'll see what the numbers show, because the annual results in any case will have to be declared sometime soon, or at least with the registrar of companies it goes. It doesn't exactly reflect that number to our sales numbers, but even otherwise I would say that we are growing very rapidly, mainly because while there is a lot of digital skill available at the individual level in India, industry in general is still, I think, lagging behind.
Okay.
But the advantage of Indian industry now is it can leapfrog. It can easily leapfrog into what we have right now. And that, I think, is an opportunity that Indian industry will not let go of. Okay? So I'm actually very enthused about the fact that there is so much more awareness in Indian industry about how quickly they need to bridge the gap of where they are and where they need to be. And which is why I feel that there's a lot of white space in India. There's a lot of work we can do. And, my whole attention now is to try and find how best to get to my clients as quickly as possible. Do I have the people? Do I have the bandwidth? How do I get to them? How do I showcase what we have? So that's what we are already planning.
So in terms of people, are you going to be hiring more? You already told us how much the organization has grown, about 13,000 people currently. Are you going to be hiring more?
So we will continue to hire in India. We never stopped hiring in India in the last 4 years, and we will continue to hire. But how many is very difficult to predict. It all depends upon, how the demand pans out. So having said that, India remains a growth center. There's a large amount of investment that Salesforce has made in India. So we will continue to do that.
Are you hearing different stories from your peers who are looking at other regions and other markets at this point in time? Because you talked about growth in India, but the concern and the worry globally is that there is a pause as far as tech spending is concerned, discretionary spending specifically. What are you hearing from your peers?
So one of the things, of course, has been that the developments are coming at such a fast pace that there is some amount of hesitation on the part of customers as to whether they should go for this or they should wait further. But you really can't catch a falling dagger. You have to take the jump at some point of time or the other. I think the kind of offering that we have brought with Agent Force is very compelling, is really compelling. And therefore, I think, this is something that people will go for. We also try to make sure that if we are doing any further advances on these, it will not negate the kind of spends that you have done earlier, that it will build on it.
Right.
It will not require you to sort of throw it away and build all over again.
You talked about the gaps that exist in terms of adoption. Let me ask you about what's happening on the banking side specifically, and as a former insider, where do things stand? All banks have made significant investments, especially to catch up on the technology front. But where are we today in that cycle?
So
from an outsider's perspective?
Yeah, so again, I would say that, I am a little disappointed about the fact that the public sector banks still are lagging behind. Maybe, being from the public sector, this pains me more than it should, but it does pain me because we still don't have a public cloud policy in the public sector. And as a result of that, what is happening is there is still an insistence on on-prem systems and private cloud. And believe me, most of the solutions that are getting written today are all meant for the public cloud, because there is a large need for compute as well as storage purpose, and to build all of that on-prem is very, very costly. It's a kind of a technical debt that you create, which is not easy to sort of, very quickly get through. And on the other hand, if you use public cloud, you can be very agile. You can pay as per your usage. You can go up and down. You don't need to make provisions for that kind of compute capacity or that kind of storage capacity. So I think it's very important for the public sector to look at the public cloud policy. And there were concerns on security, but I think a very large number of these security concerns are addressed. I would say it means whatever security concerns were there, which are currently there, have all been addressed. Other than that, if that had not been the case, you would not have seen banks all across the world adopt public cloud. Not only that, even for that matter, the government of India, for its India Stack, has adopted public cloud in some of its offerings. CoWIN, for instance, is on the public stack. Now, CoWIN also has PII. And if you ask the Reserve Bank, the regulator will very clearly say that there is not one circular that tells the banks that do not use public cloud. There's not one circular, and they are correct. Nowhere does it say that you can't use it. But the public sector has been very hesitant about it.
So if you're saying that regulatory requirement is not there, that public sector banks should not use public cloud, what is the hesitation then?
I do not know. I wish I knew. I really wish I knew, because it's just a question of their not feeling comfortable about the security. And what I would like to say, I have known many, many circumstances where even on-prem systems have been hacked. So I don't see where the security question comes from, because security is a problem everywhere, whether it be on-prem, whether it be on public cloud. There is no additional concern on the public cloud. As long as you follow the right processes, as long as you ensure that you have the right kind of compliances, the right kind of auditing requirements, it should be just as safe. But whether it is just that or whether it is something else, it's difficult for me to say. But we have seen a lot of hesitation. And if you look at the RFPs still coming out from the public sector, they're all coming for on-prem systems. And the sad part is that the solutions that are getting written, and you talk to many of the leaders, ask them how many solutions they write for on-prem. If you look at all the on-prem systems like Oracle, SAP, they're all coming onto the cloud now. So, to at this point invest in on-prem, for me at least, I think it's a little bit of a, I'm a little surprised by it, because what you're doing is you are using a very scarce capital resource for putting those things in place. And capital is not all that, plentiful in India. So why should you use that for doing stuff like this?
Do you think that this will further disadvantage public sector banks?
Yes, I do. 100%. That's my feeling. I may not be popular for saying it, but I really do believe that.
I'm playing devil's advocate. What if people were to argue that if you were still within the public sector banking space, you might have had a different opinion. Now that you're on the tech side, you have a different opinion.
No, that is not true. Because if you ask me, I was the first person in the entire banking sector that started the private cloud. At least I went on the cloud. In fact, if you ask the public cloud provider who gave us the private cloud provider, we were the first client. RBI was the second. Okay, so even then, at that point of time, when public cloud was not so common, where cloud was concerned, I had taken SBI onto the private cloud, being the first bank to do so. So I have always been progressive in these matters, and I have not changed.
Well, speaking about change, you talked about how India is also bolstering Salesforce's global efforts with what is happening in the centers of excellence and so on and so forth. Yes. Take me through the kind of innovation that's happening in India for Salesforce globally, develop in India for the world.
Yeah, so basically it's not that we have one solution that's developed entirely in India. So today, there are many global leaders that sit in India with teams in the US or other places. There are many teams in in India that have leaders sitting in other places. And there is collaboration amongst all of these teams. But all the solutions that you are seeing over here, the industry solutions that we have put out, the auto solution, the auto cloud, for instance, the health and life sciences cloud. Now, Indian teams have had large components of that coming out of their, efforts. But what happens is, we work collaboratively. So somebody may write the code, somebody else may do the debugging, somebody else will do the testing, somebody else will do the UAT, somebody else does the beta version. So it's a collaborative effort. So I cannot say that India gave this solution. It's something that is given collaboratively from across the teams in the world. So we have teams in India, we have teams in the US, we have teams in Israel, we have some teams in Dublin. So we have teams in various places. Now we are having teams in Mexico as well. So we have teams in various places. They collaborate in order to come up with the solutions.
Let me ask you a broader question as far as the global economy is concerned. We've just seen the Fed announce a 50 basis point rate cut, kickstarting.
Which was what the market was betting on.
The market was hoping for, and it's on the aggressive side. Do you believe that this is going to make a material difference now as far as the complexion of the global economy is concerned?
I definitely think so. The Fed and what it says and what it does still has an inordinately large impact on economies of other countries. Okay, I don't know what the Nifty is doing today. I haven't checked it out, but I'm sure it's going to go up. Okay, so
well, Wall Street has already given it a thumbs up. So,
yeah. So Wall Street will give it a thumbs up. The general, in fact, yesterday I was with a few people, and I was saying that 50 basis points is what's going to come, and they were saying the market wants 1. I said, come on, I said, you have to be reasonable. You can't keep going up.
Expectations.
Yeah, you temper your expectations. You can't do that. But I think a 50 basis points is, I think, reasonable. Given everything else, given the fact that it has been kept high for a very long time, given the data print that has come recently, and definitely it's going to have a very good impact on the rest of the world economy.
Well, let's talk about India. I mean, given the fact that the Fed has moved with a 50 basis point cut, what's the expectation now? What do you believe the RBI is likely to do? So how will this weigh on the RBI?
This is something that I will not comment on because I'm out of the,
You're out of the rate cycle.
Yes. I do not follow it so well, so what I say may not be actually correct. I follow the IT cycles very well these days, but not so much the rate cycle. But I do know that it has an impact on the stock market, and it has a salutary impact, I would say.
Well, speaking of cycles, and I'll ask you this in the context of the many cycles that you've seen in the banking sector. This chase for deposits and the big concern that's been put on the table as far as banks go. How do you look at this? Do you believe that there is a structural change now, given the fact that we are seeing this diversification, this financialization as far as savings are concerned?
So I think, this is following what I would say the natural course of things. Every developed economy has gone from being a deposit-led economy to an economy where deposits and debts from the market are more or less balanced. It has to be balanced. It shouldn't be one very much more than the other, then you are looking at trouble. But to be deposit-led banking system like we were, I don't think that's ever going to come back. And to say that you've got to get it done.
You think that era is over?
Yes, I do think the era is over. And there are two reasons for that. One, of course, is the fact that today we have a younger population with a far bigger risk appetite. Because their earlier generation are still working, they don't depend on the younger generation. If you look at my generation, and mine, not yours, mind you, my generation, we were supporting an older generation and a younger generation. Today's younger generation is not supporting the older generation and still doesn't have a younger generation to support, okay? Given that, their risk appetites are far more. The markets are far better managed and controlled. So given both of these two things, I think, the shift towards investing in the market is here to stay. It's not going to get reversed. Unless there is something, of humongous nature that happens.
Yeah.
The third thing I think which has really resulted in this is the innovation of SIPs. The SIP is something which has enabled people to invest in very small sums.
Yeah.
And that again, if you look at India and the amount of disposable income that we have, it was impossible to buy even one Reliance share, in an earlier stage because of the sheer size of it, okay? Today, because you can put 2,000 rupees at a time into the market, you can buy into the mutual funds, and the mutual funds in turn are able to give you that market access. So I think, this is something that is here to stay. This is the new reality.
So what is the challenge then for banks? I mean, moving from, as you said, a deposit-led growth mindset to now having to accept this new reality.
So our treasuries will have to tone up, okay? At one point of time, everybody used to blame us for lazy banking in the treasuries. I agree it was lazy banking. So our treasuries really need to tone up to understand how they should balance assets and liabilities. Whether the giving of those loans makes sense. Whether the price at which they are going to get the liabilities justify the margins that are required in order to give those loans. So the treasuries as such will become far more central to our operations than they have ever been.
Well, back to what's happening at Salesforce. There is clear enthusiasm, as I pointed out, with what has been delivered here in terms of agent force. But there's also a feeling in general. I mean, you drive down the valley to the city, and all you see on either sides of the highway are billboards screaming AI and screaming what AI can do for you. So it's a very competitive landscape. But do you also feel that we're perhaps at this point in time at the peak of the expectation cycle?
I don't think so. I think there will be more to come. What shape it will take is very difficult to predict, but I think what has come now is sufficiently mature for businesses to invest in. It's sufficiently mature, it gives a high rate of accuracy. In fact, Mark said that we are willing to have a bake-off. So, we are actually willing to take on the challenge and showcase that what we have is actually giving you results that are meaningful and that will make your business much better. So, if you are trying to call somebody and you are sort of, on the speed dial or whatever it is, and you're being asked to hold on and on and on and on, all those days will be gone. It'll be in the past. There will be agents that will be able to take your queries and run you through the whole process without missing a beat and do it well.
Well, what are you most excited about? As you said, you no longer feel unsuitable to be a part of a tech company because, we're moving into an era of generative AI where everyone's now questioning what the role of coders is going to be. So how comfortable do you now feel?
So, the coders will still be required in companies like ours. We will do the heavy lifting. For our customers at large, if they know English, that's more than enough. So which is why I was telling you, I was the true visionary 50 years back, I majored in English, and that's all I need right now in order to create the agents. Okay, so yes, the coders will still be needed for the heavy lifting, but it will be like Mark showed the iceberg, it will be below the surface. You won't need them above the surface.
So from chairwoman or at, actually you were what? You were chairman at SBI, and you even tried very hard to get them to change it to chairperson, but they said the statute didn't allow that. And now to chairperson at Salesforce. You know, it's been a big shift and a big change. But again, that mindset that we were talking about, do you believe that we're now somewhere closer to breaking some of those boundaries, you know, back home?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are beginning to realize that, you know, the world is moving at a very, very fast pace. All cycles have become shorter, and you have noticed that. Look at the economic cycles, look at the market cycles, look at tech evolution. All cycles are becoming shorter, and human life is becoming longer. So to that extent, yep, I think, you know, we are very close on the verge of, you know, of seeing a very new world. A new world where I believe, you know, we'll have more equality of opportunities because we'll be able to provide it to everybody. A world where, you know, probably, you know, you will not be able to or not have to see the kind of distinction that we see today, that a person who has money gets very good treatment and a person who doesn't does not get that sort of treatment. A person who is able to afford a very good school gets a hugely superior education, and a person who can't doesn't get it. AI, I think, is something that will be a great leveler for all of these areas.
You said you've gotten used to the idea of working with people who are several generations younger than you. What's been the big learning from that?
Well, the one thing that I love is their energy, and the second thing I love is their awareness. We were never so aware either about our own health or about the environment. Today's youth are so aware about these things, and they know how to channelize their energies into making these things better. I really and truly love that about them.
Arundhati Bhattacharya, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here at Dreamforce in San Francisco. We wish you and Salesforce the very best of luck and appreciate your time here on CNBC-TV18.
Thank you, and thank you for coming in and attending Dreamforce.
No, my pleasure, absolutely. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this CNBC-TV18 special from all of us here on the team. For now, goodbye and many thanks for watching.